our guest on the line, Luke Leftwich, a pitcher who does not want to see lots of home runs go out of the park. Luke, thanks so much for the time. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, guys.
So, Luke, we had a question we were going to start with, but something came up that we now need to know about. As a pitcher, what do you think about the guy starting an inning with a guy on second base? You work so hard, and then all of a sudden you get to an inning, and there's a guy standing behind you before you throw a pitch.
Preface: Jeff hates it.
if you couldn't tell.
I was in Double-A the first year they implemented it, and at first it took a little bit of getting used to. And I understand why they wanted to bring it in to speed up the pace of play and whatnot, because it's basically a free run. But, I mean, as a pitcher, I don't necessarily love it, because there's some times where you go out there, make some good pitches, give up 2 fly balls to the outfield, get 2 outs, and you've given up a run. So, I mean, it's not the best thing for pitchers, but I understand where they're coming from when they did it.
Luke, we've had a chance to talk to you back when you were pitching in Reading. We've followed your career to where you are now. And so before we get to anything else, I got to ask, what was the experience like for you to go pitch in Australia? And, by the way, be a member of the Melbourne Aces championship team.
Oh, it was incredible. I had a blast down there. They treated us so well. Australia did a really good job with handling COVID early on, so there were hardly any cases over there, so it felt like back to normal again, and that part of it was great. Really fun group of guys on the team, great coaching staff, and obviously when you win the championship, it's a fantastic season and a lot of fun, so I have nothing but good things to say about it.
You're a guy who has had baseball in the family. Your father and grandfather both pitched in the majors. If you make the majors, you'd be only the second, third generation pitcher to make it. What's it like when you've got the family like that you can go pick your dad and your grandfather's brain for some good ideas of what to do?
Oh, it's amazing. I've heard a lot of people say, oh, there's so much pressure, you have to be the third, but it really is the complete opposite. They've been nothing but helpful with me in everything, on the field, off the field, mentally, physically, anything you could ask for, they've been right there for me. Personal pitching coaches right there all the time. So it really has helped me throughout my career, and they'll continue to help me throughout the rest of it. So it's been great.
I wanted to ask you about last year. It was crazy with the pandemic, things being canceled. I saw you say the Phillies wanted the players to treat it as a season, and you ended up back in Atlanta throwing with people there. But at the same time, kind of looking for a job at Lululemon. What was that like last year to try to make a little money to keep it going and at the same time keep yourself ready in this crazy situation?
Yeah, it was an interesting year for everybody. I was fortunate enough that there's a lot of baseball in Atlanta, and there were a lot of people in my situation, so I had a good group of guys out there, plenty of people to throw with and all that stuff. And I mean, you guys know minor leaguers don't make a ton of money, so you got to make a little bit more on the side. And I had worked at Lululemon the off season before, and great managerial staff there welcomed me back with open arms, understood the situation. And so it was pretty easy to juggle both of those at the same time without having to play in season.
There was basically no minor league season last year, and we're all used to it being part of our lives for those of us that cover baseball and are in baseball. What was it like for you not to have that season when your whole life has been about baseball?
I mean, it was certainly interesting, and I consider myself a bit of an optimist, so I like to look at the bright side of things. And yes, it absolutely was terrible not getting to play for a whole season. Everybody was really bummed about that, but it was a good opportunity for a lot of us to spend some time with our families that we don't usually get to spend and do a little bit more. Because, I mean, most of us have never had a summer off since we were 12 years old. So that was nice. I mean, I got engaged and got to spend some time with my family and got to live in the house that we just bought. So that part of it was nice. But, I mean, not playing is always less fun than playing, you know?
Yeah. I mean, Luke, we've talked to you in the past and we followed you with regard to how much family means to you and how much your past means to you. We'd be remiss. I understand that you had a relationship with somebody that we got to be a little close with in Pedro Gomez. What was it like to know him and to have him be part of your life back in Arizona?
Pedro was seriously one of the best human beings I've ever met in my entire life. Everybody's seen him on ESPN and all the great work he does and did doing Wednesday Night Baseball and all of those things. He was an incredible, incredible reporter, but he was an even better human being. And he was a great family friend of ours forever. I played with his son growing up. My parents were really close with them. He was always there in spring training every year when they did the 30 clubs in 30 days, and they would come through, and he would always make a point to take time out of his day to make sure to come over and see me and see how I was doing and everything. And he would take me out to dinner. And you can't say enough good things about that guy. He was one of the best people I've ever known, if not the best.
And with baseball, you talked about him and his son Rio. He used to talk about his son all the time and talk about that whole team and back then. But we talk about baseball in terms of fathers, sons, moms, kids. The family aspect of baseball more than almost any other sport. And so we had an experience this week for Philadelphia in that I believe one of your former teammates in Luke Williams had his moment in the major leagues, and you commented on Twitter. What's it like for you to see your old comrades make it to the major leagues and see the reaction of their families?
Oh, that's the best. It really, one of my favorite things about playing baseball at this level is all the relationships that you make and all the friends that you make and everything like that. And Luke is one of my favorite teammates I've ever played with, and watching him hit that home run and the smile on his face running around the bases and his family's reaction, and then the post-game interview where he was pretty much brought to tears about it. It almost brought tears to my eyes watching it. I was so happy for him.
That was the best part to me. You can see just how much you go through when you reach that moment. The emotion just overcame him. Your own journey has been one that's been a little different at times. This spring, you were invited to extended spring training. You decided to take a different path and ask for your release. Can you talk about what motivated you and what your goals are now going forward?
Yeah. So I had been thinking about it for a little while because coming into spring training this year, I was not quite where I wanted to be, mechanics-wise, velocity, the stuff coming out of my hand, and that kind of stemmed back to my 2019 injury and the time getting back from that, and I just really wasn't where I wanted to be. And nothing against the Phillies. It had nothing to do with them. This was a personal decision of, I thought the best possible way for me to be a big leaguer was to step away for a little bit, really focus on my mechanics, get back to where I was before or even better, and then come back and sign with somebody and have a real shot to push for the big leagues.
How much does it mean to you to go through this process? And you've had your own share of injuries, I believe. So what's it like to? I guess you're healthy at this point and know that this is the next step for you.
Yeah, I'm 100% healthy. Just got done throwing a bullpen today that went really well. And my head is definitely in the right place. And I'm really excited for what the rest of this season has in store for me, because I feel like I'm as good as I've ever been, and that's exciting to me.
All right. So then here's the big question, and I'm rolling my eyes when I ask it. What's your spin rate?
Oh, God.
To be completely honest with you, I don't really know. It's not one of the things I look at.
So that's become, especially over the last couple of weeks, has been like a big issue, is spin rates as well as this substance issue. What do you see in this? Is this something new? Is this something that we all should worry about, or is this just the latest talking point for baseball to see, to kind of drum up support?
I would say it's a little bit of both. It's been in the game forever. You can listen to Nolan Ryan interviews and people from back in the day where they're using substances to either take spin off the ball or get it to move more, whatever. whatever the case may be. I would say the big reason why a bunch of people nowadays are using the foreign substances is because, I mean, these balls, if you grab a big league baseball fresh out of the casing, it's a pool ball. It's so slippery. And that's one of the things I struggled with when I first got up to AAA in 2019, because you go from the minor league baseball to then AAA that year used the big league baseballs. And there's a massive difference between the two of those. And I mean, it really does make a difference when you're used to throwing one and then switch to the other. And I mean, I could definitely see why people have started using it. More people have started using it, because if you don't use something, whether that's just the regular rosin, something like that, like, it will slip out of your hands.
So for those that are listening, I bet you a lot of their eyes went up when you said that the ball is different from AA to AAA. Why is that? Your goal is to make the major leagues and to pitch. Why would they have you pitch with a different ball when they're developing you than the actual ball that you're going to use when you get to the upper levels?
I mean, that's a question that I've been asking for a long time. It doesn't really make much sense to me. I mean, maybe it's a cost thing, because I know the big league balls are a little bit more expensive and there's so many of them that they go through in every game. But I mean, to me, it makes sense to have a universal ball that you use from rookie ball all the way through the big leagues, so that everything's the same and you can look at everything on the same level playing field.
Like you said about Nolan Ryan going all the way back then, that's what I said to Jeff last week. You know, none of this is new. People have always been trying to do something with the ball to get an advantage. I think baseball is using this as an opportunity to crack down, because scoring is down and they're concerned about attendance. But I'm curious, how much of an adjustment is this going to be for pitchers if in season they come up with a new rule that you can't use the things that got you there? It just seems like, spring training would be the time to make that change, not right before the All-Star break.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you there. And I mean, you could make the case from their side that's like, well, you shouldn't have been cheating the whole time. But I mean, the truth is, like, a lot of people use it and use something. So it will be a bit of a learning curve of, now that they're cracking down so heavily on it, of going back to nothing or just rosin and things like that. So I could see a definite learning curve for a little bit for the people who are heavily reliant on it. But I mean, these guys are the best in the world. So I think they'll be able to make the adjustment and still be just as good. I mean, it doesn't make you throw any harder. So it's one of those where it's like, if a guy's throwing 100 miles per hour, it doesn't really matter if their spin rate is 2,000 or 3,000 or 1,000. It's still 100 miles per hour, and it's still really hard to hit. So,
Luke, before we let you go, the spotlight has shined a lot brighter over the last year, it seems like, or last couple of years, regarding minor league baseball and the way that minor leaguers are treated. And you talked earlier about having to have a second job while you're trying to fulfill your dream and work full time at that as well. If you were I'm going to make you commissioner of minor league baseball for a day, what would be the one or two things that you would want to see, or that you would make changes of to make things better for the minor leagues?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the first thing that comes to mind is pay, is wages. But I think if that's a non-negotiable for whatever reason, I think one thing that would help a ton with a bunch of minor leaguers is either year-long pay, so that you don't have to get a second job, or you can just basically afford to do your training in the off season while you're not making any money. Like, that would help a ton. And also basically either helping pay for housing during the year or paying for housing during the year, because that's a really difficult thing that not very many people see is end of spring training, you find out 3 days before you leave where you're going. And then you have 3 days after that to find somewhere to live in that city for like a 6-month lease, which is the most expensive one you can find. And so that's really tough as it is. And then in certain places, those leases are 3/4 of your monthly paycheck. So it's one of those things that, like, minor leaguers make so little money and then have to spend almost all of it just to live there.
Well, we hope you're commissioner one day and look forward to following your journey, Luke. Always appreciate the time, and I can't wait to see where you go next. Thanks so much for a few minutes today.
Absolutely. I really appreciate you guys having me on.
You take care of yourself.